Welcome. I'm so happy you're here, and I'm so happy to show you finally my finished Vesuvius tea. This honestly felt like a drag to get through the finish line. I just wanted this to be over. It's a perfectly good pattern, but I feel like I've been working on it for ages, which it kind of has, because I started this on the very first day of the crochet along, which was July 1st, and today is the first day of fall. So September 23rd. So yeah, it took me almost 3 whole months to finish it, and it's so unnecessary to spend that amount of time on this pattern. That's completely my fault, and I'm very happy to be done. But yeah, I'm very happy with how it came out. Hopefully, I'll still have a chance to wear it before it's too cold. We already have, you know, the trees already look like fall here, like yellow, and the tree in my backyard is already lost like a third of its leaves. So yeah, it's definitely happening. For my Vesuvius tea, I used this yarn. It is Anne by the brand Circulo. I had the idea that this was a Spanish yarn, but because I follow a few creators from Spain and I've seen them use this yarn, but it says made in Brazil, and it is 100% mercerized Brazilian virgin cotton. So maybe it's Brazilian, I don't know. But it is very nice. I feel like mercerized cotton, it might be a little hit and miss how soft and enjoyable they are to work with, because there's been, if you live in the US and you go to Joann's or whatever and you look for mercerized cotton, they really only have like one brand of it, and it is really not the nicest yarn to work with. It's just really rough, and I don't like it at all. I have like 4 balls of it, and I don't like it at all. But before this one, I had also used one of Lamia yarns mercerized cotton, and it's so soft and so nice to work with. So yeah, I don't know. I feel like if you're looking for a mercerized cotton yarn, it's kind of hard to gauge like truly how enjoyable it'll be to work with it. But I liked this one very much. It's very soft on the ball and on the garment. Like I don't think I have um any particular sensitivities with materials against my skin. So if you do, maybe take it with a grain of salt. But I really like the way that this feels against my skin. It feels really nice. And yeah, I made it in the color 7382. And how much do I have left? I can weigh this. So I have 74 grams left out of 3 balls of yarn. And this was originally, does it say? Okay, it was originally 147 grams. And I only have 74 left. So yeah, I used quite a bit of it. I'm not sure what I'll do with the rest, but I'm gonna cake it up and put it in my stash now. We'll see what I'll do with it in the future. So I have an itinerary for today. There's a couple of things that I want to do. The very first one is that in last week's video, the very first video for my stash busting series, Alexandra, who is my very first subscriber, thank you so much. She left a very thoughtful comment in the video, and it gave me the inspiration of I want to maybe go a little bit deeper into the data from my stash. And I think specifically, I want to know exactly how much of my yarn is acrylic or a manufactured fiber, and how much of it is natural fibers. And I don't need to go through the data to tell you that I think 99% of it is acrylic, which is kind of sad. I mean, I suppose there's nothing wrong with having a stash of all acrylic yarns. But considering that the reason why I want to destash so much is because I want to acquire more natural fibers. It's like, okay, I have a long way ahead of me. Um, but still, we're gonna go through that. And the second thing is, I cannot stand having my office be this kind of mess. So the room that I'm in right now is my office. And this yarn has been sitting on this bed for weeks. I think it's been a month now. And I cannot stand it anymore. I need to organize this mess. So I already went through the trouble of organizing all of the yarns by weight. I have a tub, I have a couple tubs actually, and I'm gonna store them in a way that kind of feels consistent. Um, but yeah, I'm gonna put them all away and finally feel like comfortable in my own space. So before we get started with looking at the data, I also wanted to add that throughout the last week, I kept adding a few yarns that I knew that I hadn't included in my stash. A lot of it were whips that I knew that I wanted to use the yarn, so I frogged them and I added them to my stash. And when I was doing that, I found what I believe to be the Lion Brand Heartland in denim yarn that I thought I had added by mistake. So I think my confusion was because I had these right next to each other and they really don't look similar at all right now, but I don't know, in my head it's like, well, I already have a lot going on and this is blue and this is blue, so they must be the same. But I saw this and I can already tell that it feels like Lion Brand Heartland yarn. And I kind of just had like a light bulb moment and I weighed it and it weighs exactly the same as what I already had in my stash. But yeah, it doesn't have a label, so that was probably part of the confusion, but I did find it. So, yeah, that was pretty fun, I thought. All right, you guys. So I've got this all set up. This was the quickest, easiest way that I was able to figure out how to go about this. So basically, what I did is I just used some Excel formulas to go through my tag list and count how many times or if any of these words are listed. Considering that I manually had to add the tags, I already knew exactly all of the fibers that exist in my stash. So yeah, just count, like for example, this one in this crushed velvet, it's only polyester, we count it as one. In this one, in the Frisia Bernat yarn, we have 3 different types. Acrylic is counted once, nylon is counted once, and wool is counted once. I have the totals down here. So I thought I had a lot more acrylic than I actually do. I felt like every time I was adding the tags for different yarns, I felt like every single wand was acrylic, but I guess not. So 53 of the 116 balls of yarn or different types of yarn that I have contain acrylic in some way or manner, which is 45, basically 46% of my stash. And the second one that I have the most is wool in some way, shape, or form, which is almost 22%. Um, Very surprising to me. I did not think I had that much wool in my stash. And that's probably why it's so good to go through this activity, because it really opens my eyes to what I own. And obviously, like a lot of the yarns that I own, let's say, for example, the Wool Ease Lion Brand yarn, that is like something like 80% acrylic and 20% wool, or 90% acrylic and 10% wool, something like that. So obviously it contains a lot more wool or a lot more acrylic than wool, but it doesn't matter. It still contains some portion of wool, which I think, yeah, it's very interesting. The other one that I have a lot of is cotton. So yeah, that's cool. And polyester. I think that this activity is super interesting to do. I definitely did not expect to have this high of a number of wool in my stash. Very cool. And after I was done with this, I figured that it would also be interesting to go through the different weights of yarn that I own. I did do the calculation last time, but I didn't show it. I think now it would be interesting to show it. So, the way that I figured out all of these different names, these are the names of weight of yarn that can be found in Ravelry. But yeah, there's 12 different yarn standards that Ravelry considers, and I wanted to use that. So, I don't own any cobweb yarn, and I don't own any sport weight yarn either. So, this is what we're working with, and these are my totals. So, the one that I had told you guys that I own the most of is Aran weight yarn, at 46, 47% of my stash. And I think part of the confusion that I had before is that the yarn, you know, when you go to Joann's, almost all of the yarn is Yarn Inspirations or whatever, or maybe it's just what is most commonly used here in the US. But the label will actually has the numerical categories. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or 7. And almost all of my yarns are weight 4. So I thought that that just means worsted weight yarn. But I suppose for Ravelry, they also consider Aran weight as a number 4. So yeah, almost half of my stash is Aran weight. The next one that I have the most of is DK weight at 16%. Very interesting activity for sure. And I wish that the Ravelry export file that you're given automatically could do these calculations for you. Unfortunately, it does not. I'm sure they have other more important projects that they have in development. But yeah, I thought that this was very, very interesting. I think it was very eye-opening for sure. I did not expect to see these numbers. And it is very helpful because now I can plan my projects with real knowledge of what is in my stash. Very helpful. So thank you for watching me go through this. I think that it was very helpful for me to go through it. Hopefully it's helpful for you too. They can give you some idea on how, if you wanted to do this for your own stash, how you could go about it. Definitely the most tedious part was individually going one by one, adding the tags for each of my yarns. Alright, so before we go on to organizing all of the yarn into the tubs and cleaning up my office, I also wanted to show you guys with more detail what is in my queue to work first for the fall and winter. The very first thing that I wanted to work on was the palmistry yarn. You will notice it's not on my very top of my queue, and that is because I started it. I started it 2 days ago, which I'm very excited about. So the yarn that my husband chose for his mittens is the Lion Brand Heartland in Black Canyon. I don't know if you can see it properly through the camera, but it's a very, it's a black with some gray speckles, I'll call it. It's very nice, very soft. I really like Lion Brand Heartland yarn. It's a favorite for a reason, I suppose, but I don't think that I remembered how nice it is. But yeah, my swatch looks freaking crazy. Something that I realized is that in crochet you don't really swatch in the round. That is, I had never personally heard about swatching in the round for crochet. Maybe for amigurumi I could see that, but I don't make amigurumi, so yeah. So when I wanted to swatch for the mittens that I'm gonna make, I realized that I had to swatch in the round, and I had never swatched in the round before, so of course I didn't give myself enough slack in the back, so I had to chop it up. I'm not really concerned about repurposing this yarn, considering that the mittens don't really take so much, and I have this ball of yarn and another fully unused skein, so I'm not worried about running out. I think it's kind of cool. Yeah, I'm pretty excited about this swatch. It feels very dense and very nice. I'm sure that this is gonna make excellent mittens, and I'm very excited for it. So that was number 1 in my queue, and that has been begun now. The next pattern that I want to work on, I talked a little bit about in the last video, which is the Even Easier Eyelet Yoke by Knititude or Chantal Miyagishima. I didn't even know she had a Japanese last name. I think that's pretty cool. And I already chose what yarn I'm gonna use for it, and it's a new yarn. I think it shows that I have a little bit of a problem when this is only my second stash busting video and I've already bought yarn 3 times. But okay, so we went to Joann's and I was not gonna buy yarn. It was only to look at the Halloween decorations. But once I'm in Joann's, I can't just not look at the yarn, right? So I'm just walking through, same old, same old. Nothing looks new or different or interesting. And then I ran into this yarn. This is more Woolies yarn. This is Thick and Quick in Toasted Almond. And I love it so much. I I couldn't not get it. It looks like my cat. So I have a tortoiseshell calico-y cat. Um and this looks so much like her fur. I just couldn't not get it. So, and there was also a 30% sale on Lion Brand yarn. So I bought 5 balls of yarn. And I'm gonna use that on the Even Easier Eyelet Yoke pattern. I'm very, very excited for that. I think it's gonna look so good with toasted almond colorway. And I'm running out of battery here on my laptop, so let's get moving. Then I have the Pie Camisole by Nabita Jarrett that I'm gonna make in my Fuzzy Peach Fibers yarn in Midnight. Moving on, I'm also want to make this sweater. It's called Calliope by Espace Tricot. And for that, I'm gonna use my knit and crochet yarn in lavender. I like it so much because it looks like, you know, just a normal sweater, but the yoke looks like, it looks so good. I'm in love with the yoke of the sweater. I cannot wait to make it. I think it's gonna look so freaking good. Look at that, it looks beautiful. So yeah, that is gonna be what I'm gonna make next in my queue to make. The one after that, and you know, after, oops, I'm running out of battery. Okay, let's get going. Then I also have the Terrazzo neck by Petite Knit. I know Petite Knit is super popular, but I've never made anything by her before. And I think that by the time that I make it to this pattern, I'm going to, it's already going to be winter, honestly. So I think that this will be very useful for the winter time here in Minnesota. So I can wear under my coat. For that, I am going to use more Lion Brand Heartland yarn. It's going to be in Kings Canyon. It's in a very beautiful green color. So this is the Lion Brand Heartland in Kings Canyon. It's a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful green. I like it so much. And something that I've been thinking a lot about lately is when I look at people who are making their knits, they always go for natural fibers. And it makes sense because you're putting so much time and effort and sweat and everything into this garment. You want it to be as nice as possible. And I wonder at times how much of it, well, I'm gonna go into that rambling. I've been doing a lot of thinking on why do, in knitting especially, people are so focused on using natural fibers versus acrylic into their makes. And I have a lot of thoughts about it, but I'm running out of battery on my laptop, so I'm gonna talk about that in a minute. But the next project that I know I want to make for sure is the Stay Up Till Dawn sweater by Veronica, or Kutovakika in YouTube. It's just a good old beautiful raglan sweater. It just looks so cozy. I want to make it really bad. I want a raglan sweater for this winter. And yeah, I've always wanted to make something that was designed by her, but I don't know, I haven't gotten to it yet. So for that, I'm gonna use a Karen Simply Soft Ogo yarn that I have. I haven't decided which colorway I'm gonna use. I'll probably do Pagoda Glacier, but we'll get there when we get there. Next up is the sweater number 24 by My Favorite Things Knitwear. I saw this on Instagram yesterday actually, and I got the idea that I could use my Bernat Frisia yarn on that in pomegranate. I have no other plans for it and I've got to use it somehow, so maybe I'll use it on that. The other patterns that I have here are things that I would like to make, but I don't really know. Woohoo! I don't really know exactly what I wanna make it with. So that's my cue. So before I move on to organizing my office, I think I'm just kind of putting it off at this point. I don't want to do it, but I do want to do it. Is something that I need to spend some time looking at is I really want to make myself a rug. So underneath my chair, I've been using just like this plastic thing to avoid my chair causing damage on my carpet. But this plastic sucks. I bought it in IKEA. I actually got it I got it as a Christmas gift, and it's from IKEA. Um, and it's only been 9 months, and it looks terrible. So I think I'm gonna make myself a rug. Um, and hopefully I can have something that looks and feels better than this stupid IKEA plastic thing. Alright, well, that's a lot of talking. I really need to get started on cleaning out my office if I'm gonna finish this by today. Hey guys, it's Tuesday today. It's been a few days since I recorded last time, and there's been a couple of things that had happened. So first of all, on Sunday, there was an event here in Minnesota called Yarn Over. Just a fiber festival where you can go and buy yarn, but it's also on Sunday, the day when the Minnesota Knit Guild joins to review some of the entries in the Minnesota State Fair, which is a really big deal if you live in Minnesota, and some of the entries that were submitted for the knitting competition and its various categories. And I went, and there were some door prizes, and I won some yarn. So I have more yarn, but I didn't buy this yarn, I won it. So it's different, right? That's what I'm telling myself. But I like it a lot. So I won this sock yarn. It's a classic. I know that I've seen it at several different yarn stores that I've gone to. So it is Regia Angora Merino. It's so plushy. And maybe all sock yarn is this soft. I've actually never purchased a yarn that is sold as sock yarn, but this is really soft. And the colorway is, and I don't think this is, oh, it's in German. So I don't know enough German to know which one of these numbers is the colorway. So I'm just gonna put it right there. It's a very pretty blue, and I got two of them. And honestly, I've been kind of wanting to dabble on making socks. So now I have an excuse for it. Um, Also on Sunday, um, Death Cap for Cutie and the Postal Service played here in the Twin Cities. So I bought myself this super cool shirt. Hopefully, you can see it well. Honestly, from far away, because it was packed. The line for buying merch was really long and stupidly slow. But from afar, I thought this was a vinyl record. So I thought it was the crow from the Transatlanticism cover, album cover, on a record player, and I thought that was so freaking cool. I just had to get it. It is not, in fact, a vinyl or a record player, but it's still a very nice shirt. I'm so happy that I got to see the Postal Service live. Dream come true. Teenager dream come true. They're touring for the 20th anniversary of the only album that was released under the Postal Service. So yeah, I'm very happy that I got to do that. It was an incredible show. I actually cried while they were playing Passenger Seat off of the Transatlanticism album. There was at least one more girl in front of me that I thought she was also wiping her tears away, so it wasn't just me. That makes me feel a little better. And another thing that happened earlier today was that I realized that my Cascade 220 yarn that I bought just recently, I didn't actually assign it to any of the projects that I currently have in my queue. So I decided that I'm gonna be using it for the sorbet sweater by Gutobakika. And I don't know what it is, but after realizing that I'll be making that sweater with that yarn made me extremely excited about making it. So I had to completely reorganize my queue order. But yeah, I'm gonna be making the mittens, then the even easier eyelet yoke, then I'll make the sorbet sweater. Um, but yeah, I'm very excited for all of my plans. I cannot wait to get started with them. Other than that, since Saturday, I've also been able to do a lot of work on the mittens that I want to make. And this is how far I am. It looks a little crazy. I found out that I don't have 5 DPN needles in this size, so I had to pull in circular needles that I also have. But yeah, it looks a little crazy, but this is the first cuff for the first mitten. My plan is to have it fingerless, so I'm gonna do, the mittens, do the fingerless mittens for the actual fingers, but for the thumb, I'm gonna actually like close it out as if it was a full non-fingerless mitten. So yeah, I'm really happy that I got this far already. It works up super fast. Actually, this has been made basically between yesterday and today, like during meetings and work and stuff. So yeah, it's working up really quickly and I'm very excited about it. But other than those fun little updates that I have just about my life, um, I had a real reason why I wanted to just add a little bit to this video. Um, and that is about the little ramble that I went on Saturday regarding, going through knitting patterns and going through the projects that people have made of it and noticing that there is a huge inclination towards a certain type of fiber for the yarn that people are using. But I don't think that I explained my thoughts in the most eloquent manner that I might have been able to otherwise. Um, so I wanted to give it another try today. And again, I feel like this is a little bit of a loaded debate because it comes up every once in a while. Like, I haven't been crocheting for the longest time ever. Like, I've been crocheting for three and a half years now. And I've been very active on Instagram. Maybe not posting stuff on Instagram, but I certainly, I have my dedicated Instagram handle where I only follow knit and crochet and yarn content. Um, so I know that this topic comes up every once in a while, and you know, it's a bit of a maybe controversial topic. And if it's not controversial, then at least it is a topic that can come with a lot of opinions and very strong opinions sometimes. So I'm not trying to open a Pandora's box. I'm just trying to maybe put my thoughts into words. And I don't know, see if anyone feels similarly or has any thoughts or wants to engage in conversation about it with me. Um, so, yeah, that's really what I'm looking for. But anyway, so in my time as a crocheter and being involved online and stuff with other crocheters, there's certainly sometimes been a little bit of a push towards using natural fibers. And for example, cotton is a natural fiber that is commercially available and it is affordable, and that is great. There are certainly times where it makes more sense that you want to use cotton yarn or, linen or whatever. Um, and those are relatively inexpensive. Maybe not linen, but cotton. Um, I've never really felt a push to use wool in my crocheted items. Maybe, uh, maybe I'm misremembering. Um, I don't feel like there was or has been, um, at least as far as I can remember, this huge push to use um, yarns with wool fibers in them. And honestly, if I go back to some of the crochet projects that I've completed that have maybe, been garments, um, I can find examples of people, who create their project page, attach it to the pattern, and they're using yarns that contain acrylic contents in them. And that it's not hard to find. So now that I am someone who is going really deep into knitting, so much so that all of my all of the projects that I want to make this fall and winter are knitted garments. So when this specifically happened when I was looking at the terrazzo neck, pretty sure that's what it's called, by Petite Knit. I always go through the projects that other people have made with that pattern just to see what it looks like, right? I feel like we all do that. And as I'm scrolling and scrolling and scrolling, because this is a very popular designer with a very popular pattern, there's hundreds of projects. They are all made with yarn that is just purely wool. And I gotta admit, I didn't scroll through the entire hundreds of projects that have been made using this pattern, but after scrolling so many times and going through so many pages, I could not find a single example of someone making this with any man-made fiber, so acrylic or whatever. And I just thought that was, I mean, I think it was noticeable enough that even I was able to notice. And even I was able to notice, then I feel like there's something there. And I think that it just led me down to this rabbit hole of, one, am I gonna be the first or one of the first few people to make this pattern with an acrylic yarn? That is kind of crazy considering how many people have made this pattern. And two, what does that say about me? And maybe it's not that deep, right? I think that the reason why I thought that is because the whole reason why I'm going through the stash busting process is because I was able to perceive that all of my yarns are from commercial distributors and they're mostly all like acrylic yarns, and I want more I want my stash to reflect more the type of yarn that I'm actually interested in now, which is more wool fibers and more cotton fibers. So I started thinking, why do I feel more attracted to those type of yarns now versus before? What changed? And what changed in me, right? So it took me a little bit of time to feel like I have been able to pinpoint what are those reasons. And I was able to narrow it down to 4 points. And I think they're in order, but I'm not gonna say that these are in order of how important they are for me. So the first point is that it's something new. Again, all of my yarns, I felt before I went through the process of actually going through the data and seeing what fibers are in my stash, I felt like all of my yarns were acrylic, and the only thing that I've basically ever bought are acrylic yarns. I want to try something different and new. I want to try something different. Point number 2 is considering that yarns with high wool content are more expensive. I think that is going to lead me down a path of buying less. since commercially available yarns are a lot more affordable, and me being the type of person that I am, I feel like it is a lot easier for me to tell myself that it's fine if I spent $30 on 5 balls of Woolies yarn, like I just did last week. And with those 5 balls of yarn, I can make myself a sweater if I wanted to. However, if I wanted to buy myself a sweater quantity amount of yarn in maybe like 100% wool yarn, it is not gonna be $30. If anything, a single hank of indie dyed yarn is usually $30. And that might lead me down a path of being a lot more purposeful and meticulous about what yarn am I adding to my stash. The third point is that I want to support local. There are quite a bit, there are a lot of indie dyers around me in my state that I would love to be able to support. And if I'm spending my money on this cheap yarn that's beautiful in its own right and it serves its purposes, I'm not spending it on doing not just buying beautiful yarn, but also supporting other small businesses that are around me. And finally, the fourth reason is I realize, obviously, acrylic yarn is not the most environmentally friendly, sustainable option. Environmentalism is something that is really important to me, and every day I, well, not maybe not every day, but very often I think about the things that I own, the things that I'm bringing into my possession, into my house, and thinking about, will these things outlive me, you know? And maybe that sounds too dramatic, but it is something that I think about. So yeah, I put a little thought into that, and I think that now that I was able to really put into words my true feelings and on why I want to destash as much, I think that now I'm ready to just be a little more aware on how I'm gonna go about this. Obviously, I wanna use up as much as my yarn that I own because I've spent money on this. I wanna make it be worth. But also, I started thinking on, I wanna make stuff for myself, but can I use some of this yarn to bring joy to others? Um, so I should be showing right now a quick clip on one of the tubs that I was able to fill up with yarn. This is the yarn, this is the tub that contains all of the yarns that I actually feel inspired by and feel excited to work with. I have a second tub exactly the same, and I purposely filled it up with yarns that I'm not really inspired by, don't bring me as much joy. Um, and you know what? Maybe I'm considering that maybe not for this fall and this winter, because I am very excited about the projects that I already want to make. But maybe for the spring or the summer, or in years to come, I want to maybe make some charity work for using these yarns. I could maybe I can make hats or blankets. Hopefully not blankets, but I could make things for me to give away. Um, I've always been very interested in the thought of um, making for charity. And I think now I'm realizing that that might be a way to really incentivize me to use up as much of the yarn as I can. But yeah, those are some of the thoughts that I've been having, and hopefully I was able to explain myself the best way that I could. Hopefully, I'm not opening a Pandora's box of people coming after me and being like, of course we use acrylic in knitting, and I don't know. But yeah, hopefully, um, if I'm able to achieve anything with this little ramble that I just went down on, is um, maybe incentivize other people to also think about um, their own stashes, and why do they buy the yarn that they buy, and why do they have these purchase patterns that they have. All right, well, I think that is finally it. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.